beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairie to the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Well, welcome back to another edition of Precinct 29, coming to you right here from Pahrump, Nevada. Downtown Pahrump, Nevada, that is. And today we have a guest with us who has been in the papers recently, has been a resident of Pahrump for quite a number of years, and actually moved out here from out of state, just like most of the rest of us. And the issue today is about what happens if you have something happen at your house and the next thing you know, you're accused of doing something that's not right. That's, well, I'll let Anthony tell you his story. Anthony, you want to introduce yourself and kind of bring us up to date on what's happening?
Yeah, my name is Anthony Greco. Most people see me in the newspaper a lot. I ran for town board in 2010 and 2012. In both elections, I didn't make it past the primary. I'm originally from Staten Island, New York. I was born in Staten Island, New York in 1955. I grew up there. I remained in Staten Island, never lived more than 5 miles from where I was born until 1998 when I moved out here. I went into business when I was 20. I did that from 1976 until 1994. I had a towing and road service business. I had many motor clubs. I was #1 in the United States for All-State Motor Club for efficiency. I was #1 for the Northeast of the United States for Amico Motor Club for efficiency. My main thing in life was to be in business and do it with honor and pride, and give customers what they want. Give them more than what they pay for. I believe in if you ever do sales, the smartest thing to do is under promise and over deliver. Okay, if you could get something done in 20 minutes, tell them 40. When it's done in 20, they feel that you did a better job. I believe in customer service. That was one of the reasons why I ran for town board here, was to give the general public, the citizens of this community, things that they wanted, to not do what I wanted, but to do what the people that put you in office and you represent to do. I don't feel that the people in this community's voices are being heard. You go to town board meetings and things like that, and they just don't listen to the people. They say, well, you're not the majority. Well, the majority of the people that are speaking there, you know, if you have something that comes up and 27 people speak and 22 people say they don't want it and 25 say they do want it, and then you vote for the 2 people, well, how are you representing the people? Well, they say, well, other people got in contact with us, but they never show you who that is. But let's get away from all of that political stuff and let's get to the real world, okay, the world I live in. Back in 2010, I had a house that I was working on, and there was a break-in and vandalism by fire. And
Anthony, when you say there was a house you were working on, what exactly were you working on at the house?
Well, when my fiance purchased a house in 2007, she lived in it for a short amount of time, and then her job transferred her back to Vegas. So this gave us an opportunity to work on that house, and she was in Vegas at least 5 days a week. And when she came back to Pahrump, instead of staying in her house, it was easier for her to stay at my house, and that way I could do the deconstruction, which was knock down walls and move plumbing and electrical and stuff like that. While she was living in the house, we mainly focused on the outside, okay, as far as irrigation systems and laying out the infrastructure for what was going to be there when the house was completed. We'll speed it up a little bit, and we'll go to August of 2010, when I discovered that there was a break-in and vandalism by fire. When that was discovered, the police were called because it was a break-in. There was no fire going on at the time, so I called 311, and I didn't know that the community doesn't have that service. So when I called 911, they switched me to the local sheriff's department. I called the sheriff's department to notify them of a break-in. When they came down, they saw that there was a break-in. They saw that there was a fire that was out, so they called Chief Lewis. Chief Lewis came down. We went through the building with him. He called the fire marshal. Nobody did anything else. We mainly stood outside until the fire marshal showed up. Chief Lewis talked to the fire marshal on the side. Did not have a chance to hear that conversation. I talked a little bit. I gave a statement to the police. I gave a statement to Chief Lewis. I gave a statement to the fire marshal, and then he proceeded to do his investigation.
Now, where did the fire marshal come from?
I think he comes from Vegas, because he's a state fire marshal, and they don't have an office here in Pahrump.
Okay.
So he's Mike Kolpak, who was the state fire marshal, is personal friends with Scott Lewis. I guess that's why he called him. Scott Lewis did not tell me that, but Kolpak, the state fire marshal, he turned around and told me that he was personal friends with Scott Lewis, and they have worked together numerous times before. The state fire marshal was cordial with me at the beginning, and then he just got very nasty. After he talked to Scott Lewis, he became very nasty, short with me, did not want to hear anything I had to say. Just became actually to the abusive point. He went in, walked around, he called for fire units to come down. They sent 2 fire trucks down to illuminate, in broad daylight, to illuminate what was going on. I had firefighters walking in and out of the home. Did you want to say something?
Well, no, I was just surprised. I mean, if there was a fire, then obviously fire people would be going in and out. But is this long after the fire was put out? Or?
Nobody ever saw the fire actually happen, or there was never any. When I got there early in the morning, there was no smoke. There was a lot of water damage. The fire department never really responded. That's probably why the structure still remains, because they didn't show up.
I'm sorry, but I have to ask. Didn't the fire department ever show up to put the fire out?
No. Actually, I discovered the home when I got there that the fire was out. All the windows and doors were closed except for the 2 that were broken into, and a water pipe had melted. You know, we have PVC in these houses here. A water pipe had melted, and because of the lack of oxygen from the windows and the water hitting the fire went out pretty quick. The house had more smoke damage than fire damage. So the firefighters were there not to put out a fire. They were there with these giant pieces of equipment to bring lighting into the structure so the fire marshal could do his job.
So nobody ever called the fire department to say
Nobody
there was a fire
ever
there?
called the fire department to say there was a fire there. I was the one who discovered it. I guess it was many hours later, because the water had to be running for hours and hours because the house was flooded. The house was flooded. The water had spread to many rooms, dripped down into the crawl space. It actually poured out some of the doors of the house. It was a mess. It was a real mess. So the fire department only came there with 2 pieces of equipment, which they could have came with like a little $500 generator to illuminate it, but they came with these big fire trucks, and they had wires running into the house, and they were there for hours and hours. It was a big operation that they had going on, and I had gone back to the house a couple of times to walk around and see what happened, and the fire marshal told me, you have to get out of here, this is a crime scene. And I'm saying to myself, well, if it's a crime scene, why are all these people walking all over the place? You know what I'm saying? We got firefighters walking in and out, doing whatever they want, and it bothered me a lot on what, it's a crime scene, I have to stay out of there, but everybody else can walk in and out.
Well, I have a question then. If it was a crime scene at that point, did anybody call the sheriff to come down and seal it off as a crime scene so they could do a proper investigation?
No.
The sheriff never showed up.
The sheriff showed up first. They're the ones that called Scott Lewis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the sheriffs came because I called in a break-in. So they came down for the break-in. When the sheriffs got there and they seen the water damage and the fire and remnants of a fire, they said we better get Scott Lewis down here. So they called Scott Lewis from there.
So here we have a crime scene now where everybody's just traipsing through the building.
Two police officers, myself, my brother, Scott Lewis, the fire marshal, and 2 to 5 firefighters.
Oh.
The firefighters were on call for a long time after the police department were gone. Because don't forget, you're talking about a long period of time. I had to write a report. I had to call Kathy down there because the house is her house. Okay, I'm just a fiance. The house is not mine, it's hers. So I have to call her down because they can't take a report just from me because it's her house. Even though I have a total, and still have to this day, she hasn't withdrawn it, is power of attorney for all her legal and monetary matters. I take care of everything. Kathy's job is overwhelming. What she does, she's a hospice nurse. She's a case manager. So she is in charge of many, sometimes she has up to 35 people that she has to oversee. So her job is very time consuming.
So now we have the fire marshal is on site.
Yes.
And what takes place after the fire marshal showed up?
Then I guess he called for assistance for firefighters to come down because he needed illumination, which is...
So they had the trucks roll and...
Trucks came out. There was one at the beginning. Sometimes there were 2. They were there long enough where they had to actually change shift on my property.
So what was the end result of the fire marshal's investigation at the site? At the site, I don't know what the turnout was. Did you ever get a copy of their report?
I did not get anything from his report until a week ago, and it wasn't even a report. It was a joke what I saw, and that's part of discovery on this arson case that the fire marshal has brought the case to DA Kunze. Kunze's decided to press charges of myself and Kathy for arson and insurance fraud, and
with that, Anthony, we're coming up on a hard break here.
Sure. No
so
problem.
Let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk again about what has happened since these reports came out and the DA has gotten involved.
Okay, that's not a problem.
The mountain.
So now what I'll do is I'll get into